Greetings. Welcome. Welcome, everyone. My name is Maurice Muhammad, your host today for REMBI. Welcome to your REMBI Property Management podcast. So, your source for property management related information. Um, I am coming to you live from Pennsylvania, Allentown, Pennsylvania, which is where my Pennsylvania office is located. Currently licensed in New Jersey and Pennsylvania as well. Today we have with us a guest, an esteemed guest, Mr. Wiley Stearns, um, a past president of REMBI, which we'll get into more information about that in a little while. Property management here, REMBI is your source for property management related information. From how to become certified to how to get up to date industry related property management information. We practice management excellence. That's our purpose and our intent here is to practice that. With that being stated, um, we have with us our guest um, today. We have He is a CREM designate, CREM designate, past REMBI president, current REMBI instructor. We'll get into what those designates and all those alphabets mean in a moment. And he's licensed in California, and I believe he's a Prairie View graduate. And we'll ask him and let him explain and give you his accolades in a moment. And the last thing I would like to add is he is a real estate broker out of California. So who we are is you are viewing REMBI's podcast, and this is our podcast that is your podcast as it relates to property management information. We're your source of property management information, and we're here bringing you information with a service and an excellence of service orientated information as it relates to property management. So today we're here to talk about REMBI as an affiliate of NARAB. So without any more from myself, I'd like to introduce our very special guest today of our podcast, Mr. Wiley Stearns. And Mr. Wiley Stearns, welcome. We're very honored to have you, sir.
Thank you very much, Maurice. It's a pleasure to be on a podcast. As most of you may not know, I'm one of those seasoned veterans, and I am not very familiar with podcasting, but Maurice is introducing me to it, getting me up to speed, not only podcasts, but all of the other new mainstream products that the millennia and the now generation are doing on their computers. I just learned to turn mine on last week, so I think I may be catching up. Thank you very much.
You're very well.
Maurice is smiling, he's laughing at me.
No, I'm laughing with you. No, I'm not definitely not laughing at you. Laughing with you because you're doing just fine, doing well, doing for sure. Absolutely. Yep. So NARAB, REMBI is an affiliate of NARAB, and NARAB was established in 1947, and REMBI was established in 1968. So we're just around celebrating a little over 50 years as an affiliate and in the and having a footprint in the property management industry. So can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and then who is REMBI?
Okay, a little bit about myself. I am a native Texan. I graduated from Prairie View A&M back in the 60s. I won't say when because that'll disclose my age. But I did graduate from Prairie View with a bachelor's degree in pre-veterinary medicine, animal science. I was I am a real estate broker licensed in California since 1972. And in 1975, I became a real estate instructor at Los Angeles City College, and then later at West Los Angeles Junior College. And I've been a member of NARAB since 1972 when I got my real estate license. And I guess I've held probably most position within the I've held all of the position at the local and state uh, chapters, which include, being the president, chairman of the board, etc. I've held at the national level. I've been on the board of directors. I was Region of 15 vice president, and Region of 15 composed of the Western state, uh, which include California, Washington, Oregon, Arizona, Colorado. I was regional vice president for a number of years, chairman of the board for the California Association of Real Estate Brokers. And now, I'm semi retired, but still a real estate broker and still active in what needs to be going on at REMBI, which is the Real Estate Management Brokers Institution. REMBI is the acronym for that. And if you're thinking about property management, you do need to get your real estate designation. And if you're in real estate, you need to be a part of REMBI, because during our latest housing crisis, REMBI was a sustainable way in which to make a living when the real estate market was really in the tank. And you may see it going in the tank again with COVID-19. Thank you.
Thank you. So you mentioned um, it being a sustainable way to make income as a result of when the market goes down. So how do you see that relating to us? How do you see that affect? How do you see that playing out now with the pandemic, with the current state of things? How can
Well,
REMBI benefit someone?
with the pandemic being what it is now, a lot of people, because of the pandemic, they're probably not out showing houses. You're either doing it via the virtual tour, etc. And a lot of people are afraid to, have direct contact with their clients in terms of doing the showing. But you can do property management and still make a very good living at it. Keep in mind, there's a lot of tools in property management that people are not aware of, and they're not taking advantage of it. In addition to just managing properties, most of us probably are not aware that in most states where you have probates and that type of stuff, the court appoint overseers or managers to manage the property while they are going through the probate stage, or while family members are contesting wills and that type of stuff. So it's an excellent avenue to have a money stream coming into your office or coming to you while the market is down.
Nice, nice. Thank you for that information. That's good information for those that are have an interest. So, um, so what does RIMBY do? So you said that they gave us the acronym of RIMBY, which stands for Real Estate Management Brokers Institute, and you are a CRIM designate. So can you tell us what that is, CRIM, and what the CRM means? We know that the CRM is a certified resident manager, and the CRIM is a certified real estate manager. And the difference, what can you tell us, so that for anyone that doesn't know what RIMBY is or have never heard about it, what does that do? Who is RIMBY, and what do those designations do?
Well, you mentioned the two designation, and with those two designations, the CREM, which is your highest designation, and that you're certified as a real estate property manager, which means you can manage any properties. You have your certification that are recognized nationwide. You can manage anything from governmental owned properties, subsidized housing, apartment buildings, shopping centers. You, with your designation, you can present that to any owner, landowner, overseer of the property. You can present your designation to them to show that you completed the necessary coursework to handle their property. But CREM is the highest designation.
CREM is the highest designation. So if I'm a person, I'm licensed, I'm newly licensed, and I'm taking advantage of the time that we have set down, and I've taken my real estate course and I've gotten licensed since we've been off a few months, and I've gotten my real estate license. And through my real estate course, I take a liking to property management. I want to become a property manager. How do I make this work for me? What do I do? What's my next steps to become a certified property manager? I'm licensed,
Well,
newly licensed out the gate. Is this something I should do, or should I wait? Do I need more experience? Help me out with that.
no, you don't have. You don't need the. You don't have to wait. You don't need the experience. I would suggest though that you enroll in a property management course, and there's two stages. Maurice mentioned the CREM and the Jesus Christ, having a senior moment.
CRM. Mm-hmm.
The other one.
CRM.
And what is it, Maurice?
CRM.
CRM, which is the first stage. So what you want to do is begin the courses, and after you complete 2 classes, you get your first designation, which is a CRM, and then after you complete the next 2 courses, plus you do your dissertation or your final paperwork, you get your CREM. But you can start right away and get your first designation. And most individuals, after they complete the first 2 courses, they are ready to kind of go out and start making a presentation to owners to manage their property. We've had individuals that have completed their first 2 courses, and they instantly received a contract to manage small properties for small individual property owners. And then when you get your CREM, you're ready to shoot for the moon. You're ready to go to HUD, go to the federal government, your state governmental agency, and say, hey, I'm here. I'm ready to manage the property that you have in your inventory. Give me a shot.
So let me make sure I understand this correctly. I want to be clear. So it's saying, you're telling me that after taking the class, 2 classes, now the CRM stands for Certified Resident Manager. And the way I like it to explain, to identify with that is, it's equivalent to a doctor or a student that's in med school and they're practicing to become a doctor or a practitioner. The CRM, they have to do a residency inside of a doctor's office. So the CRM is equivalent to that type of, if you had to parallel it to something, it's equivalent to a residency, but it's in property management. So
yeah, that's correct.
Yes, sir. Can you move to the a little more to your my left, your right, Wally? They can't see you in the screen. There you go. Yes, sir. Thank you.
I got you.
Yeah. Thanks, Clara, for that. There was one of the viewers gave us a text us and said that she couldn't see you. So I wanted to establish and ask the question now for those that hopefully that was helpful, helpful information. Looks like Miss Weber is joined in with us, and I'm going to bring her in as well. I'm going to ask you, what does REMBI do? Can you tell us, what does REMBI do? Wally, let us know, what does REMBI do? Um,
Uh, when you say what does REMBI do, it basically prepare you to enter the marketplace of property management.
okay.
There's a number of things that we have to learn, and we start out with the basics at REMBI.
Hmm.
You'd be surprised at the number of people that are not familiar. They're familiar with selling real estate. They may be familiar with uh, the process of selling real estate, but they're not familiar with all of the process of dealing with property management. You have to know various building system, housing system, heating, electrical, that type of stuff. Because if you're going to manage someone property, uh, if the boiler break down, you have to be able to calculate what it's going to cost or prepare a budget for him for preventative maintenance down the road. So you're going to get some coursework in setting budgets. You're going to get coursework in identifying good tenants. You can get a tenant application and you look at it and you say, "Oh, this is a good tenant," but there's some things that Miss Weber can teach you. I can teach you that tell you how. Hopefully, it'll teach you how to screen the best tenants out there rather than getting a mediocre tenant that 3 months later you may live to regret and the owner going to be upset with you.
Good point. Good point. Thank you for that, Mr. Stearns. So, Ms. Webb, did you want to add anything to that?
Well, sometimes you have people that are, and thank you so much for inviting me here and allowing me to join today and talk about REMBI, because one of the things that Mr. Stern mentioned was about REMBI getting you set up so that you get the best tenant. And I would just like to piggyback on that, because um, everyone is not interested in buying a home, and they want the comforts of a home in their property management. But one of the other things in the property that they're going to, where they're going to live, one of the things that I would like to share with you is, as a property manager, you're responsible for that. You're responsible for allowing people to have a home where they're quiet and they're living with people that they want to live with. And you do that by having a standard of screening. Um, the standard of screening is that you have some questions, and that how you handle it for your office. So that in your office you have a standard for which you operate, and REMBI will teach you a lot of how you go about doing that, and selecting your tenants, and how the tenant is going to be happy as well as you're going to be happy. And I don't want to tell you the whole thing about the policy, but that's one of the things that you would learn in REMBI, and how to do that, how to make sure that you're going to have the tenant that is going to be happy, and that is going to want to live in your properties that you manage.
Thank you, Ms. Weber, for that. Would you like to add anything as to how REMBI was why REMBI how REMBI got established in 1968, and what we do and what REMBI does? And would you like to add anything to that as far as the establishment of REMBI and why we do what we do? So I think it's important to determine the history of a thing to help those who may not know about REMBI, or for hearing about us for the first time, can have an understanding and a base of what REMBI does and why we do what we do.
Well, I alluded to that a little bit when I was talking before, and one of the things that REMBI uh, started back in 1968, because they found that in many times their people were looking for um, good apartments and a good place to live, and there were not the same policies around the country and in various areas that helped them to be prepared to rent a stable home and a stable property. And then the real estate management uh, did not have the same standard procedures that they could follow. They were doing a number of different things in terms of selecting the tenants. So the real estate management was able to get together and say, okay, well, these are some standards that we should go by that will help both the property manager and the tenant in knowing what a property manager is going to look for. And it would be good for the tenant to know, because they're able to select where they want to live.
Mm-hmm.
And the managers at that time did get together and say, okay, these are the things and these are the requirements that we think that would make for a happy owner as well as a happy tenant. And they began to put these policies together. And then they said, well, in order for us to be successful at this, we can start REMBI. And REMBI was then started because they wanted to have happy owners as well as happy tenants. And it was a win-win situation because good housing was what owners wanted, and good housing was what the tenants wanted as well. And ultimately, good housing and good tenants would bring about good property management, and you would be successful in making money for the owners as well as being able to keep the properties up and have properties that people wanted to live in.
Maurice, let me add also, back in the mid 60s, remember, we were not as integrated as we are today.
That's where I was going to go.
And the government had a lot of public housing in major cities across the country. And the property managers that they were using did not look like you and I.
Mm-hmm.
Subsequently, they was having problem with the tenancy. So they kind of reached out to NAREB and said, hey, we need to have a group of guys that have been trained to manage some of our properties and get good tenants so the government could get good returns on their investment, and hopefully happy tenant, as Gene said, would produce a good place to live.
Yes, sir.
It would not be a slumlord. It would not be run down as the years went by that we saw a lot of these government housing become. But that was one of the main reasons that REMBI came into being, because there was nobody to really manage the properties on a large scale that met the federal government requirements. They was doing property managers meant for smaller groups, but not for the federal government, who had massive amount of public housing across the country, and they needed to get someone in. And quite naturally, when the government step in, they have to put some criteria in place to ensure that we're qualified.
Yes, sir.
And 95% of the time, we was more qualified with our 5% than their 95% were to handle properties in our community. But that's kind of really where the crux of the matter came from. The founding came from those founding fathers of REMBI said, let's get together, let's have a training session. And I believe the first course was in Chicago, Illinois. And that's where they elected their president. They set the policies for REMBI at that particular time. fast forward to today, we still got some of the same problem, but we're out there. We want to train folks how to manage not only public housing, but you want to be able now to manage shopping centers,
Yeah,
any type of real estate that's on the market. We should be able to manage it.
that's right. Absolutely. Thank you for that. That leads me to my next question. If Ms. Weber don't want to add anything to that, I wanted to ask.
Well, I did really want to add to that.
Go ahead, please.
One of the things that we did when we got together, excuse me, was we formed REMBI for uniformity.
Yeah.
Excuse me, and certification and how we would operate. And we were able to get contracts because not only were we able to certify with the kinds of things that we were doing, we were able to standardize it. So across the country, as a part of being in NAREB, we were able to be unified and do the things that were necessary to get the contracts, and people could count on, the government could count on what we were actually going to be teaching and what we were going to be doing, and it followed along with what the government was looking for. So we were able to get those contracts as well.
So we were trained in a way to be REMBI members, I should say, are trained and qualified to get government contracts, is what I'm hearing. So is there an idea of how many members REMBI have trained? How many members REMBI have trained to date? How many members have REMBI trained?
I'm not sure Ms. Weber is still there. She's probably better qualified to answer that question.
Okay.
But I know we've trained I'd say more than 1,000 members.
Yeah.
Over the course of the few years since our inception. Probably during my tenure with REMBI, I believe we had our largest class probably in maybe 2010 or 2011.
Mm-hmm.
And at that class, and it was in multiple stages. We was in various parts of the country, but I believe our largest class was probably in Las Vegas, Nevada, and we probably had about 30, 35 individuals in that class. But over the course of time, the number exceeds thousands of individuals that have been trained to do property management.
Gotcha. I remember that Vegas class too, by the way. That was very eventful. He was in the courtroom. Two questions that brought to my mind when you mentioned the Las Vegas classroom. One question I want to ask is, two things I want to say is I can definitely relate to being ready the moment you leave one of REMBI classes. So I want to kind of just make sure for the audience that may not be aware of the process, that there's one course. There's 4 different courses that required to get your designation. You take one course. After you complete 2 courses, you get your CRM, and after you complete 2 additional courses, you become a CREM. So I just wanted to put that out there for those that may have an interest and a desire to get the excellent training that REMBI has. And I'm going to ask our audience, I guess, to possibly give us a little bit more information on possibly the concepts of what happens in a class. If you could just take us through, and then after that, we'll give you some information on webinars that we have coming up that's free to members. We have a webinar coming up that's free to members and very nominal cost to non-members. And then we'll talk more about the actual classes that we have coming up. So if that's okay, if who would like to take that question on, just giving a little brief breakdown of what happens in a REMBI class. What do you get?
Well, I guess seeing how I am the instructor in course one and possibly course two. I'll lead off. In course one, we start out basically with giving you the history of REMBI, and from there we go into the various elements of a property. And I kind of mentioned it slightly in passing, but it's very important that you know the basic system in real property. And again, we're going to teach you what those systems are. We're going to teach you how to look at each one of those systems individually. And we realize that in various parts of the country, you got different system, different architecture style. We're going to teach you about the various architecture style. We're going to teach you the very energy sources and where you need to go to become familiar with the laws of the area that you're in, because that's very important. If you are a property manager, you need to know what the laws are that govern your area, your state, or your region. Now, just because you're in Pennsylvania does not limit you from managing a property in California. You got the designation, you can manage property in California, but keep in mind, you need to know the laws of California because everything is totally different in the region that you're in. And later on, we'll get into case studies, which is where Gene is an expert in how you screen those tenants, how you set up your budget, how you make your projection, because you want to put all of that in a package that you're going to give to an owner or prospective person that's going to hire you to manage his property. You want to give him a perspective. You want it to be professional looking. You want to go in, view the property, and give him a brief overview along with what your credentials are and how capable you are to manage his property.
And I see that I'm not going to call it stealing my thunder, but you're like reading from my notes. One of the things that I especially wanted to talk about was case study, and I wanted to talk about our court visits and getting in front of the judge and making sure that what we're teaching is what you need so that you can be prepared when you go to court. And especially with the evictions. And the other part of it was because most of the time when owners purchase a property for multiple unit management and they come to us, the problem that they're having is that their revenues are down. And that's one of the things that we definitely spend time on, is showing you how to increase those revenues and how do you work with the tenant to do that. So we look at that and see what's needed. And as a part of the case study, we do examples of what's needed. How do you look at that property? How do you make an assessment? What kinds of things you need to do to this property to allow tenants that they are going to be in partnership with you in helping you to raise that revenue. What kind of things and what kind of places do they like to live? Where do they like to live? And convincing the owner that that's going to be an enhancement and that's one of the things that needs to be done, or vice versa. It goes well with the best practice of what we do, but you actually get the hands-on because you are getting on-site case studies of what we're going to do, how you look at it, and specifically how the maintenance is going to help you to increase your revenues by taking good care of it. So it's a number of things that we get, and in a 3-day period that prepares you for when you come back to your location or whatever office you're working in. When you come back, that you are able to do hands-on changes to the property and then see in the long range and in the short range how you can increase revenue for your owner.
Thank you for that, Ms. Webb. Thank you so much for that. Um, I wanted to. There was a question in from one of our viewers as to where do they go sign up for class, and I put there. You have the email address. You can send your email, or you can visit our website, which is also on the screen, and that is rembiorg.com. So you can go to www.rembiorg.com to visit our site, and you can go there to join and become a member of REMBI. And also you can become you can email us for any class requirements at rembiorg@gmail.com. And all that is below on the screen. So yes. So time sure flies. We are definitely at 35 minutes in. Usually these short webinars, short podcasts last for about 30 minutes. But the information was so important, I thought it necessary to keep on going. So I want to just ask if you have, would like to give you some parting information about our upcoming webcast. We will be back again next week with a podcast. Same time, either 3 or 4 on Friday, depending on scheduling of next week, with the podcast with additional information and other REMBI members that have the CRIM, and they'll give you information on what their REMBI designation has done for them and how REMBI has worked in their lives and then working in their property management business. So we'll have another guest next week. We're looking to bring, I believe, Annette Collier, who's a CRIM designee. She has her CRIM designation and is currently property manager, and she'll be bringing us current information as it relates to REMBI, how it's affecting her property management business in COVID as well. And we will also give you the dates of when our webinar will be. We can give you the prices now. It's going to be $50 for non-members and free to members. It'll be a webinar that we will be presenting in addition to the podcast, as well as classes that will be coming for very shortly. So I would like to see if our guests have any further points or last minute points they'd like to add.
Yeah, Maurice, let me make sure that you said the webinars will cost $50.
That's just a webinar, not the class.
That's a one-time fee of $50, right?
Yeah, one time.
First, if they pay the $50 to become a member,
right, you better off coming a member.
And it's free. They can do all of any webinar.
Absolutely.
So I want to make sure that we kind of understand.
Yes, sir.
It's probably to your benefit to join.
Yeah. And
you can listen to the webinars at any time free of charge versus putting up $50 for a one-time fee. Absolutely. The other thing I wanted to add is someone asked where could they go to do a class. I want to kind of encourage that person that's interested in getting a class to see how many other real estate professionals in her area is interested in getting a class, because once we try and set up a class, we do have some minimum requirements that we need to meet to bring the class, the instructors to your neighborhood.
Yeah. We will be doing those virtually too now in light of where is climate. Right. So it makes things a lot easier for you when you gather your people.
To add to what Mr. Stern said is that you can also, if you have a certain number that want to be involved in whether it's virtual or whether it's involved in location, is getting CE credits for the class, because we are qualified to be able to get that as well. So we can get continuing education credit for those of you that are real estate property managers.
So it can be added. It can be added as applied to your CE, your next year's CE credits coming up. Kill two birds with one stone. Yes. So if there's not anything else that you would like to add, Mr. Stearns, Ms. Weber, We want to thank you all. Thank our visitors. Thank you for hanging in there. Those that are still listening, thank you. We look forward to bringing you more information on our next podcast next week, which will bring. And this is our property management podcast, property management information. We hope that this information was helpful for you, and we pray that you were gotten something that could be beneficial to you in your business. Um, Anything that anyone can give to those that may be struggling or struggling to decide on which direction to go, as maybe why it will be a good reason to get into property management now at this current time, as it relates to the current state of affairs in the country. Property management, any reason why it would be a better business versus getting into commercial or residential.
Mr. President, you may want to say that it's property management is available to women as well, because now we have more women in property management than we do men, and it's a good field for women as well.
Absolutely.
I would add that.
Yes, it is a good field for women as well, especially.
You want to talk about that just for 1 minute, maybe?
Yes, absolutely. It is definitely a good business for women. Not to mention that you have you have to your benefit that as being a woman-owned business and a woman minority-owned business, you benefit from that. um, Property management, as you'll see next week with our guest, is she happens to be a woman, and she does very well in property management. The majority of the instructors that I've gotten my designation from were women, Ms. Webb being one of them, and Miss Evelyn Reeves being another. And you all represent very well in the field of property management. So it is definitely a good business for women. It's recession proof. Your business, you can count on, it's not about cash, it's about cash flow. And property management is one of those businesses that provides for you cash flow. So just like, property management, you're going to make your money every first of the month. The rent due is going to come rolling around. And if you're good at property management, which is what REMBI does for you, training wise, prepares you. It's one thing to say you're a property manager, but like Mr. Stearns alluded to earlier, there's a big difference when you know how to pick a tenant, and you know how to screen a tenant. Without giving away the secret sauce and the secret sauce of what REMBI does, that's what the training provides for you. You get to go. There's not a training course that I've ever seen yet that gives you the hands-on and prepares you in a way that gives you the ability to be confident to walk out with what you have learned and go and put it to use immediately Monday morning. So if you take your class, our classes have been on Thursday in 3 days, the 3-day course, you're able to go to work. And every single one of the classes, Mr. Stearns also mentioned about presenting to that owner. We walk in those buildings, it may be a 200 or 300 unit flat or 200 or 300 unit building, and we're preparing. That class puts you in the mindset to take that contract. You're setting yourself up, and we break down, and you're putting in your mind use for the lack of a better word, of taking a contract, meaning putting yourself in the shoes of, if I'm competing for this contract, what could I do that the current property managers are not doing? That's what the property management prepares you to do. It prepares you to be able to do that. But the most important part of it is it gives you the confidence to be able to walk in there and do that and get that contract. I think I answered that. I hope that was the answer you were looking for how it relates to women. And perfect. Yes, so that's it for myself. And we will look forward to seeing you again next week with more information. Hopefully you prepare your questions and bring your questions. Again, this is for you. We are here to serve you and serve you with excellence and provide you with information and to prepare you if you have a desire to become a property management with excellence. Hands down, there is no other training course that I know that prepares you in the way that REMBI does. Give it a try. You be the judge of it. I don't believe you'll be disappointed. I don't believe that that you will disagree with me after that, but we would love to have you for a class. So we'll give you more information on when the webinar is going to be. It will be probably better if you, much cheaper for you to join, become a member, and then all the webinars are free to you, as Mr. Stearns alluded to. And then we'll talk to you about when the classes will be. We are preparing virtual classes that you'll be able to take partially right from your own city, right from your own, in front of your video, just like you're watching this now. Nothing more for myself. Thank you again for joining us. And that is it for this week's episode of REMBI Podcast on property management. Is there anything else from any of the guests? If not, then we will see you next week.
Thanks very much for whoever's listening to us out here in the cyber world. Join us again next week.
Yes, sir.
We'll be back with more information.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Stearns and Ms. Jean Weber.
Thank you.